What is going on, everybody? It's Roku, and we're back with some more League content. Well, actually, no, this is not really League content. This is just me talking about the new Darius nerfs that are coming out, so this won't be the usual guide or tutorial or whatever, right? So, like, I wasn't initially aware that they were going to nerf the Noxymite specifically. I thought they would nerf some of the slows or whatever, but I was recently informed that Darius got such a quote unquote massive nerf to his AD, and I wanted to basically hop on and give my opinion on it. Was it justified? Does it fit Darius? How much does it hurt Darius? And is Darius dead as a champion? Right? And I don't want to just make like a 5 minute video talking about the Darius changes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about the Darius changes first, and then I'll basically try to react to all the rest of the changes on top of just the Darius change, so that we're doing like a 11.2 patch review basically, but the emphasis is on the Darius changes specifically. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and let's just get right into it. So let's just try to understand the state of Darius's balance. Let's say I'll talk about Darius's history from season 10 up until now, right? So, initially in season 10, early season, Darius was pretty strong, and he was usually higher A tier. And the longer the season went, up until basically April or like early summer, right? The stronger and stronger Darius got, until a point where Darius was essentially the best top laner in the game for a single patch. And for a few more patches before that, Darius was S tier. And then Riot, and keep in mind that this was a period where I had to take a break from streaming and League because I had to go, pass my exams and etc. So, and like, it's kind of sad that I couldn't abuse Darius when he was the most broken, but it is what it is. We just got unlucky. So Darius was basically overpowered for one patch at most, or maybe two. And what happened was Riot reduced, like, the Riot nerfed Conquer by making so that in order to get the full 80, you have to stack it up to 12 instead of 5. Now, this nerfed Darius hard because Darius was already one of like the slower stackers of Conquer, and having it be 6 stacks, because melee champions stack it twice on everything, right? And have it be 6 stacks basically like made it way harder for Darius to get his Noxymite on, to get his Conquer activated on time compared to some of the other Conquer users, right? So it was like the perfect nerf, as it basically balanced Darius out, and it led to him being he just basically hovered around A tier for the rest of the season. Like, towards the end of the season, he did kind of drop in his usefulness, but he was still, perfectly playable and perfectly meta regardless, right? Now, he kind of became overpowered in the preseason and right now in season 11 because of Stridebreaker, right? Stridebreaker is an amazing item on Darius. It still is an amazing item in Darius. It will always be, as long as it's in the game. But one thing's for sure, it made Darius completely broken because that item was basically made for Darius. It gave him all the stats he needed. It gave him a massive AoE slow that is hard to miss, which basically, and a lot of move speed. And the moves you combine with the slows basically made it so that Darius was way harder to kite and way harder to just, like, get away from. And that's one of Darius's biggest issues. Like you just can't get away from him right now because of like the Stridebreaker, right? So it got to a point where Darius was pretty much at a super, super high win rate. And if it, like, some of the crazy Darius one tricks actually have such high win rates at higher elos, so it actually makes sense for him to get nerfed. So it's fully justified that they nerfed Darius, right? Darius deserved nerfs. Now, when I say Darius deserved nerfs, I'm not saying that other champions didn't deserve nerfs. In my opinion, Camille has, I don't know how Camille dodges nerfs, but she does somehow. Camille has been basically the best top laner for like 7, 8 months, or 6, I guess, if you don't want to count the preseason. But it's like, I guess they want to complete the whole 12 months before nerfing her, or something like that, right? in the typical Riot fashion, they basically need 7 more years of data before they can, be sure that Camille is broken. So, like, and also, like, Malphite needs to be nerfed. Pantheon needs some hot fixes here and there. There's so many things that need nerfing, right? Darius was one of them. He deserved it. Whatever, right? Now, do I agree with the nerfs to Noxian Might? No, I do not. Now, I don't mind these nerfs, and I think they're gonna like bring him in line, but I would have preferred different nerfs, right? Because in my opinion, Darius is a very risk and reward champion, right? You play Darius not because of consistency. You don't play him because he's good in every game. That's what like mages are, right? Mages are basically good in every game because they're a very safe pick, right? Most mages are very safe picks because they always consistently get to the points where they're powerful. This doesn't really happen with champions like Darius, where sometimes you're completely weak and useless, and sometimes you're basically like unstoppable and you're a god, right? It's like a hit or miss risk. It's like a big risk playing Darius, and the reward is just you basically solo carry the game, right? And in my opinion, what we should be doing is we should basically keep Darius's skill-based parts, like his Q, auto Q damage, his ultimate damage, his passive damage. We should keep these things the same because only like really good Darius players will be able to make full use of all of these things, right? His ultimate, the right calculations of when is the right time to ult, what health, like, you have to ult at. Those are just the things that only the best Darius players can do. Always hit their Qs, like lower skilled Darius players often miss their Qs, but, they just get the kill because Darius is just kind of strong. And also, like, the passive, Noxian Might, because honestly, it does take some skill in some circumstances to stack to 5 on Darius. Now, in Platinum and Gold, and Low Diamond and below, nobody knows how to fight Darius. In those elos, Darius is completely broken. But in higher elos, it takes quite a bit of skill to get 5 stackers on Darius and actually do anything with it, because most of the time you're going to get one shot, right? So playing team fights and etc. in Darius in higher elos is very skill based. So those 3 parts of his kit are the skill based portions, which I think they should always keep the same. What I think they should be targeting is the non-skill based portions of Darius's kit, because there are a few things in his kit, or some things rather, that just buff you no matter what, right? So I'm talking about the armor pen on E, the slow on W, and the slow on E. These 3 things, you kind of make use of them even if you're a good Darius player or a bad Darius player, right? And ideally, I think they should have hit the E armor pen, right? Or the W slow, because that would not only help the whole, Darius sticks onto people and catches them very well with Strikebreaker, but it also takes away some of the stats and power he gets for free, right? I really want Darius to, I want Darius to be like, if you suck on Darius, you're not going to do very well, but if you know how to play him right, you're just going to crush games. I want Darius to basically keep that status. But unfortunately, they went for the Noxian Might AD, which really sucks because because basically what they did was with this Noxian Might change, they lowered the amount of damage you would get on your ultimate, which kind of messes up with all of our calculations in our heads. Like, I know the in-game max damage writes how much damage you would get, but most of the great Darius players don't even look at that or care about it for the most part. We basically just know how much Darius's ultimate does off of muscle memory, right? We just know how much it does. And, like, having less AD basically made that worse. But to be honest, like, Darius, this nerf isn't actually that crazy. Because if you guys remember last season, like, this was, like, 20 to 205 AD, right, is basically what it was last season, right? Remember, if like really early into last season, they buffed Darius when he was doing really horribly because of the Conqueror changes. They gave him more passive damage, and they buffed his W or something, right? I mean, they gave him, and they buffed his W and E, but like way before that, or before they changed his passive 80, they went from this to this, right? It was actually 20 to 200, but they changed it to 30 to 230. And now it's kind of back to what it used to be. And we also have to keep in mind that we actually built a lot more AD in this season than we did in last season, right? Because last season, we had Triforce and Sterak's, and that was pretty much it. If you built any more AD than Triforce Sterak's, you were essentially trolling, right? Because death stance made us way too squishy, and I don't care if it was your favorite item in the game. It was a troll item on Darius for the most part, right? Unless you wanted to get it for 5th or 6th item to like be a hyper tank against a certain type of damage, then yeah, sure. But it was a troll item for the most part. The best way was to just go Triforce, Sterex, and then full tank, right? Now in this season, we go Sterex, we go Stridebreaker. I mean, we go Stridebreaker, then we go Sterex. Got the order switched up, and then we have the opportunity to get an additional item with AD without trolling, right? And this is because of how much utility Riot put into some of these, bruiser items, right? So your Death Stance, your Chempunk Chainsword, your Silvermere Dawn, your Black Cleaver, all of these, bruiser items now not only just give AD, but they have very good utility, and they have a bunch of HP to boot. So it's not troll to build like 3 items that possess AD on Darius now, right? So let's just look at the amount of AD. So last season, we had 25 AD from Triforce, and Sterex gave us anywhere between 50 to like 70 AD. Now the specific numbers I'm not too aware of, but it was somewhere around that, margin. So 25 plus, let's say 60, because that's the average value, okay? And honestly, 60, 65 is just what you will usually get with Sterex, because, 70 plus 80 is basically when you're like level 18. So 25 plus 65, let's make it 65 just to round it out. That makes 90 AD. Now we have Stridebreaker, which is now nerfed, so it's 45 AD, plus Sterex, which is 50 AD. So that's 95 AD, and that's only if you're going for the full tank build, right? Basically, you go Stridebreaker, Sterex, and you go full tank. If you got an additional AD item, then it basically depends on where you're going to build, but on average, these utility AD items have 40 AD, right? 40. So that's 135 AD that we have in our build now, compared to just like 90 at most that we had in our build last season, right? So compared to last season, it's actually not that bad of a nerf. And honestly, it's not even that bad, because now we get this AD always, whereas last season we would only get this AD with Noxian Might. And the effects of this aren't even that bad, because basically what are the effects of it? I'll just explain the effects of this, right? So the effects of losing 10 damage early on is, it's kind of bad because it kind of renders some of our early all-ins a bit weak. But honestly, if with Darius, it's like if you get someone into a certain position, you're gonna kill them anyway. Okay, this change might make some of our closer fights a bit harder to win. Like maybe fights that we were left on 10 HP, you would basically lose. But if you were taking such fights, you basically made a mistake to begin with. Because, with Darius, you're supposed to find key mistakes and exploit them, not just use Ghost to basically lock out an all-in, okay? So, the effects of it are it will impact this damage. You will basically be losing anywhere between 50 to 150 damage in our, combos and etc. So, but if you play Darius correctly, what I'm saying isn't, it won't be that impactful. Now, the thing that I get people worrying about the most is the fact that they remove 25 AD late game. Dear all Darius players, late game does not matter. Late game does not matter. Late game does not matter. If you got to late game on Darius, it's no longer up to you to carry the game, because late game is when Darius is horrible. Right? Darius is horrible late game. You think that 25 AD is going to make a difference late game? When you're getting one shot with 2 auto attacks from every champion, or 1 spell rotation from every mage? That AD is going to make no difference in Darius' performance late game. So, I think people should basically stop overhyping the effects of this nerf late game, because late game doesn't even matter, right? They could basically make Noxian Might give 0 AD late game, and it wouldn't even matter that much, I mean, that's basically me exaggerating, but it's just to prove a point that late game does not matter. What this affects is it heavily ruins our level 1 all-ins, right? It makes level 1 all-ins weaker, because the 30 AD was a lot level 1, and our level 1 all-ins are weaker. and it makes the mid to late game fights a bit more difficult. But aside from that, Darius should still be pretty okay if the person playing him knows how to pilot him. Now, as I said, I heavily disagree with these nerfs because, like, these nerfs don't just target, like, the bad Darius players, which is the problem because right now with Darius, any horrible Darius player can pick him up and do incredibly well with him, which is what I have personally problems with, right? I hate that anyone can pick up Darius and be good with him now because of Strikebreaker. I dislike that because this champion requires a lot of skill to play well, and most League players are too brain damaged to realize that. And this nerf basically hit everyone, okay? So, like, I hope this basically makes some of the Darius abusers who are just in it for the LP play him less. I hope this reduces his ban rate. But like, I don't see this change affecting me personally that much because I don't really even like level 1 all-ins that much to begin with. I think that level 1 all-ins against champions with TP most of the time puts you in a position where you're just gonna get ganked, or you're gonna be left with a horrible wave position. So like, it's like a lose-lose thing getting a kill on a level 1 sometimes. But yeah, I guess I just talked around for a bit. I wish, like, I'm reiterating my previous point, I wish they made Darius more skill-based by nerfing the noobier parts of him. But as a summary, my opinion is, was this nerf justified? Yes. Was this the correct nerf? Not really, but it's not a bad nerf. Does this make Darius unplayable? No. Darius is completely playable at all ranks, right? Even high elo, and he's especially playable at your elo, right? You're probably like, silver, gold, platinum, D4. Darius is playable in all of those elos, and in some of those elos, he's actually one of the most broken champions. So, like, don't blame this nerf for you messing things up. It's a bad nerf, but it's not that bad. So it impacts him, right? Does it impact some of his gameplay? Yes, it does. We can't get away with some of the things that we got away with before, but I don't really dislike this change that much, right? It's fine. It's completely fine. So everybody stop overreacting, stop worrying, stop, thinking that Darius is dead, Darius is dead, Darius is not dead. He needs to be nerfed, let's be honest. Good that they nerfed him. Now let's pray to God that they nerf Camille, which is probably not gonna happen because I feel like they have a Camille one trick in like a Riot or something like that. Now that I'm done with the Darius portion, I mean, the people who don't care can just click away. But let's just go with our patch review, basically, right? I'm basically just gonna go through everything that is Darius related, right? I'm not really gonna touch anything that I don't care about, which is non-Darius items. So, Ravenous Hunter, don't care. Hextech, Proto Rocket Belt. I like the nerf on Rocket Belt because this basically makes it so that TF basically can't get a gold card out on literally everyone, right? I love the Gale Force nerfs because, in my opinion, Gale Force is heavily overpowered on champions that it was not even intended for, right? Like Graves and etc. are abusing Gale Force now, which I think is a good reason for them to nerf it, and they basically brought it back to what it was previously. So that's fun. I think that thank God. Okay, good. They did well by making so Katarina can't abuse Kraken Slayer, because honestly, the fact that they actually let this through was such a stupid thing, because Kraken Slayer Katarina was probably the most difficult thing in the game to build against. Well, not the most difficult. It's impossible to build against her because she not only did magic damage like she used to, she did magic damage, AD because they all built AD, and true damage. So it was virtually impossible to build against Katarina because of Kraken Slayer. So I'm glad that they removed this synergy. Turbo Chem Tank is 400 gold cheaper. That's amazing. Okay. More ability haste, less MR. Okay. And instead of 5 tenacity slurs, it gives 5 ability haste. Okay, how much does this give? 200. Okay, so basically they changed them to be more combat sort of, to be more better to be better for combat champions. Because what they did was they removed the tank stats and they added ability haste to them, which makes them like ability haste CDR is basically better for combat situations, right? It's basically an offensive like stat. I think these changes made like Turbo Kim Tang and Gauntlet a bit more viable for the games where you're basically inting, because in those games, when you have virtually no shot at doing anything, 2,800 gold is far more achievable than 3,200, and I would like a bit better build path, but it's not that bad. Okay, the build path is okay. So yeah, this item just got buffed, I think, for Darius. And so if you're inting, right, and you want to go something to basically team slave, then it might be a viable option. But if you're basically inting, then you've already failed as Darius, right? Why would you go Darius to play tank? Yeah, just play tank. Anyway, Gargoyle Stoneplate. I like this change because what happened before was that Gargoyle Stoneplate extra MR and armor was good, but it was never like that significant. Okay, it only gave like 3 or 4 extra armor and magic resist. Now it's like a bit better. Okay, now like let's say you have 100 armor. Now it increases by a margin that you can actually notice it. So I like these new Gargoyle Stoneplate changes, and it actually solidifies Stoneplate's position as our prime rush tank item. Darius with Gargoyle Stoneplate is actually very, very strong. Not as strong as last season, because what they've done to Gargoyle is that Gargoyle is now like the death cap of tank items, right? It's not that good on its own, but every single tank item you get is way stronger because if you have it on your inventory. So before Gargoyle Stoneplate was cheap, it was like gave it tons of resistances and it functioned well as an independent item. So we could rush it third item and basically abuse it very, very well. Darius was one of the strongest abusers of that item because of Q healing off of percentage health damage, so you heal off even more. Because of our ult dealing true damage, which basically let us, tank a lot of hits from the enemy while delivering like 600 or 1000 damage, 2 damage ultimates, and the amount of armor and MR was amazing. Right? The build path was also great because of stopwatch being incredibly broken. The new Gargoyle Stoneplate has many of those things going for it, but it's just not at its full potential without a lot of tank items. Compared to its previous version, it's not as strong, but if you're in a game where you're like building against multiple damage sources, it is still our go-to item. It's still our go-to item for hard games where you just gotta tank up ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. So it's honestly, it's honestly one of our best third item rushes, because chances are you're not going to be like stomping in a lot of games. If you guys watch my Darius guide for season 11, the second build I had, the Raging Demon build, which is basically Sterax, Death Dance, Gargoyle, and Spirit Visage, which basically focuses on staying in a fight for as long as it goes and just coming back in a fight using our Qs and our ults. It's like that kind of playstyle. So like basically, if you're up against difficult games, Gargoyle is a staple, and I had the build for it in my last video. Now, is the Roku special build of full move speed completely horrible? No. If you're fed, and if you're too fed to be killed, Stoneplate is a waste of time. You should just be prioritizing your move speed so you can basically walk at the players and kill them as much as possible and end the game as quickly as possible, right? But Stoneplate, if the game is hard, Stoneplate is amazing. Just remember to actually use it, because I make this mistake a lot myself. I buy Stoneplate, but I always forget to use it. So SSU doesn't matter. I don't think we care about Sunfire that much. Fanbasser, Renans. Okay. Grave. Kembang Chainsword. What? Right. They actually nerfed Kembang Chainsword, which, I mean, like, we still have to build it. You know, we still have to build it in order to fight, like, Vladimir Mundo and etc. But them nerfing Chainsword basically means this. Instead of upgrading to Chainsword, you should just keep the Executioner in your inventory and just buy the rest of your items first. Because like it's kind of cheap and it's good stats for how cheap it is. And if you're up against the healer champion and they're your only problem, right? Let's say this Kane, he's always healing up, he's your only problem, then go ahead and upgrade it ASAP because it does give an extra anti-heal effect of like, if they're lower, the anti-heal is even stronger. But like, the item doesn't really do that much. So if you can help it, then you should probably go your tank items and then finish Kembang Chainsword at the end of the game. But there are some circumstances where you should build it as ASAP, the one that I just explained. So let's talk about the other champion nerfs. Olaf is an interesting one. They increased his lifesteal, but they decreased his healing amplification, which I kind of like because Olaf was a very BS sort of champion. What do I mean by that? He's one of those champions kind of like Darius, except like those kinds of champions where they make a lot of comebacks, right? They're at 10 HP and they somehow kill someone. For Darius to do that, he has to hit his Q, which takes skill. For Olaf to do that, he has to right click on the enemy and throw axes basically, which is easy to do on a champion that's already slowed. So I like that they're messing up with this healing. And Olaf has been a very, freelo champion for a while in the jungle, so I think it's nice that they're hitting him, but I feel like by hitting him and not some of the other like disgusting champions like Kha'Zix, Hecarim, Graves, right? By not hitting some of those other champions, they're basically just giving power to those other champions rather than just nerfing Olaf. Nunu, they reduce his base HP and move speed, which is okay, but I don't think this is going to impact the game that much, to be honest, the base HP. The move speed is going to be a bit annoying for him, but like most of them take water walking and just traverse the map with Snowball anyway, so I don't think it's going to change that much. And all of them have Phase Rush, which is not annoying. I'm happy that they're reducing Akali's Q energy cost. I mean, they're increasing it, because basically what she could do at rank 5 with the Q is just like, she just has so much wave clear in her kit, right? It's like, this is a testament to how disgusting this champion's design is, by the way. This champion's design is so disgusting that it's like more than a year since she's been out. And it's way more than a year since she's been out, like the rework. And we're still taking things out of her kit to make her balanced. So whoever designed this was a complete monkey, but it is what it is. Good that they're nerfing that. Okay. I don't know why they're buffing Mundo, because I don't know if you guys are aware, but the Mundo rework is soon here. So it's like I don't really understand the concept of adding balance changes to a champion who's about to get rebalanced anyway with like a new kit. So this is pretty stupid, but what? They buffed everything. They just buffed everything. Okay, this is disgusting, isn't it? This is so disgusting. They just buffed everything. Okay. Jesus Christ, they buffed okay. Oh god. I guess Mundo's gonna be a bit overpowered before they rework him. Not overpowered, but he's gonna be quite strong. Trundle. I think Trundle should actually get a bunch of nerfs and bring him back to being like a solo carry top laner, like a top laner or like a jungler, because Trundle basically has the role of like a supportive champion right now. He doesn't really do too much on his own, and I kind of miss that because Trundle was one of my favorite champions to fight as Darius, and like I like the era that he represented as a character. Bonus Q, okay. Okay, they're basically making it so that Toronto players that build a bit more damage are rewarded, which is actually good in my opinion. Okay, Shaco backs the damage higher. Um, from what I know, they like the changes Shaco actually needs is to help him clear camps, like is to basically like Tiamat. Like Shaco can't really build Tiamat right now, so Shaco can't actually clear some of the, like he can't if you if you ever watch a Shaco try to clear Raptor camp, it's actually the funniest thing in existence. He loses like half his HP. But I think like I'm pretty sure they're addressing it, but I don't really care about this change. Nocturne, I don't think I care about the rest of these. These are just marksmen, 80 carries, etc. Uh Soraka. Okay, they just healed everything again. Like I'm telling you, they basically add these kinds of changes and they're gonna remove one of them in the future anyway, which is like, why bother? Aatrox new. E increases healing to 45% during World Ender. Huh. I don't get this change. What did this change exactly? So the amount of like Omnivamp he gets from his E is buffed, but the overall, oh crap. This is a nerf. This is a nerf because basically what his ultimate did was it made all healing from all items broken. And like it made like not from all items, but like from not from everything, right? E only scales with his damage, right? But R increased not only the healing he got from his damage, but also the healing he got from other champions and Gore Drinker. Gore Drinker. And like, how many times have we seen an Aatrox do Gore Drinker in his ultimate, and he's like, from 1% HP to the 70% HP? Now I think that's what they nerfed. They basically nerfed Aatrox's Gore Drinker usage, which sucks, but I think it is what it is. I think it's a fine nerf, to be honest. In my opinion, an interesting nerf to both Strybreaker and Gore Drinker would be to make it so that it does not proc Conqueror anymore. Because as I discussed in my combo videos, Strybreaker procs Conqueror, but like changing it so that it doesn't proc Conqueror would actually help out both of these champions in terms of bringing them into line. But anyway, it is what it is. It actually would bring Olaf into line too. Oh my god. Intelligent design? No way. Woo. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this patch review with Roku. I know that this probably won't get I know that this probably won't get much views or anything, but people just kept asking me about my opinion on the Darius nerfs, so I had to make this video. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.